We are indoors and we're going to play around with some air conditioning. I have a soft starter to go inside of the brand new rooftop AC. I have been waiting for a while. I've been waiting for the absolute heat wave of summer to disappear because I don't want to mess with working air conditioning, and it's been working great during the peak of summer cooling season. So now that we're kind of over the hump and I can get by with just one air conditioner, if I screw something up, first off, y'all are going to see it, so stick around in case that happens. And second, I have a backup air conditioner that I can use while I get this other one fixed. So what I've got is a couple of things I want to show you. First off, I have a clamp-on amp meter. And the reason why you need a clamp-on amp meter is so that you can measure the circuit while it is running. Let me show you a little bit more in depth here. If I take my clamp-on amp meter and I clamp it over the wire like that, what I have is power flowing out through one wire and power flowing in through another wire. And plus 10 minus 10 is goose egg, 0. So this would read 0 and wouldn't really help me out all that much. What I have here, this funky contraption, takes the power and splits it so that the hot line goes through one side and the neutral line goes through the other. So you can see the power going out on just one leg. And I can take my meter and clamp it on in there. And then for grins, I'm plugged into an inverter that has a display on it. So we've got all kinds of feedback information. Step 1, turn on meter. It's going to run through a calibration cycle. It's going to beep saying that it's calibrated. I need to switch it out of auto mode, which then puts it into DC amps. So now I need to switch it to AC amps. And there's this thing called inrush. So now I've got it set in inrush mode. We're going to stick it on one of the probes here. But before I do that, I don't know if you guys can see that in the light or not, but this is a times 10 reading. So when you see crazy numbers like 324, that is 32.4 amps. That's not 324 amps. This whole trailer would burn down if I tried to do 324 amps out of a 15 amp circuit. It's just not really designed for that. This air conditioner is designed to run on 15 amps. So we should be well within safety parameters with a 2000 watt inverter and a 165 amp hour battery that puts out 165 amps continuous discharge. A lot of times you get these big batteries and they have a BMS, a battery management system inside of them, that puts out only 100 amps continuous discharge. So you got to be careful and read all the specs and all that kind of jazz. I've got a good battery here. So far, everything looks like it's going to work. Fingers crossed. We will figure out if that's true or not. This inverter has a 6,000 watt surge. It also has protection circuits built in, so it will shut off if it detects an overvoltage, overamperage, overage condition. It will shut off if it detects an overage condition, and it will tell us that. Back to what inrush is. When your air conditioner kicks on, it takes an inrush of power, and that inrush is typically larger than the amount of power required to just run the air conditioner. And so a lot of times you can have, I mean, if this thing is running 15 amps, 120 volts, that's 1,000 watts. 2,000 watt inverter should handle it all day long, right? Well, there's that inrush to worry about, and that's going to get us. So right now the air conditioner is turned off. I've got the clamp meter in place. We've got the 165 amp hour battery from Red Audio. We've got the 2000 watt inverter, and we've got the amp meter. So what I'm going to do is turn this on. And I hear the beep from the air conditioner in the background, and we're going to watch everything go here. 3 watts, 1 watt. We kicked in. We're running 244 watts. We've seen 4.7, there we go. 3.48, 348.2 on the meter. So that's 34.8 amps of inrush current. And we're seeing that 855. So this inverter is able to handle my air conditioner. And we're pulling pretty good amount of power out of the battery. Now I'm getting excited. This battery has a Bluetooth app. Let's see if I can see if I still have that installed. I do still have it installed. And I forgot who I was, so now I gotta do all this login stuff. I wasn't actually expecting this to work, so. And she's happily running. This is actually really cool. Check this out. So the inrush on the amp meter, it's basically a peak hold. That's the peak amount of amperage that it saw coming in, and this is the current that we're doing right now, 960 watts. So let me switch this over. Out of inrush mode, that's DC, that's AC. There we go. And it says 88.6. That's actually 8.84, 8.86, 8.85. So because the device back here that the clamp meter is clamped onto is a times 10. So it's almost 9 amps of running current. And we're in. And it remembered the devices I had in there. Of course it did. We're at a 50% state of charge. This battery is going to last 1 hour and 6 minutes. The air conditioner is set to 61 degrees Fahrenheit and it is 82 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and it's set to fan mode turbo. And we're pulling 1,082 watts out of the battery. And then there's a bunch of conversion losses, cables, and so on and so on and so on going on. And that's why you see 982 on the inverter. So what I'm going to do is switch over to the air conditioner. I'm going to do wind speed of auto. And that just kicked in. It beeps every time I push the button. We'll switch back over to the battery. 1060 instead of, I think it was 1090. Yeah, not much change, because that's not the thing that draws the power. The fan isn't really your big deal there. Pretty cool stuff. I got to get this battery recharged. Oh, that's the other thing. Another part of what's going on with the number display here. Can you see that? There we go. Another thing that's going on with the number display here is that I've got my solar charge controller and my 400 watts of solar on the roof, and we are getting some afternoon sun. So that is putting power into the battery, which is currently 0.7 amps. So almost a full amp going in, which also accounts for some of the numbers differences there. Math is fun. Okay, so 0.3 amps going into the battery, 12.7 volts going into the battery. There is our big happy battery. Ignore that, it's not plugged into anything. And there's our inverter, and there is our clamp on amp meter. Everything is running great. And now what I'm going to do is switch the air conditioner off. There's the beep from the air conditioner, and it's starting to go down, starting to go down. That's 1.1 amps, not 11 amps, because times 10 still. Inverter's quiet, and eventually the air conditioner will go to sleep. There we go. The air conditioner has now gone to sleep. 0 watts out of the inverter. 0.14 divided by 10 would be 0.014. So 0.01 amps in standby for the air conditioner. This is awesome stuff. So next thing that I got to do now that we got the before picture is I've got a soft starter to install, and we're going to see if we can beat that 38.4 amps of inrush current by installing a soft starter. And hopefully we'll have a good before, I opened it upside down, a good before and after picture. So there's the soft starter device, and there is some installation stuff, and I love that they sent these lever nuts on. That's going to make this super easy to do. Let's take a look at this thing. Okay, so there are those lever nuts, and it's a set of 3 in and 3 out. You basically take the existing wire that's up on the roof on the air conditioner, and you put it in this side. You put the soft starter wire in here, and then you put the output from the soft starter and back into the air conditioner. So this is going to be a pretty clean inline install. You've got some 3M VHB tape, very, very high bonding. I think that's what VHB stands for, but this is the stuff that they put automotive trim panels on cars with to go down the road at 100 miles an hour. A couple of screws, self-tappers, some electrical tape, and then here is the soft starter itself, and it looks like it's just a big capacitor inside of the box. And what we have is compressor, blue, red, and black, R out, S out, C out, and supply, R in, S in, and C in. And so this would be the supply side, and these are all labeled for us, and they're labeled exactly. That was tucked in. I wonder if that was tucked in for a reason. So S in, R in, and C in, and they're labeled and color-coded there, labeled and color-coded there, and labeled and color-coded there. Excellent. Instructions. Read your instructions. This is how I do it. This is not a how-to. You might find some value in how I did it, even if it's just to laugh at me. Open it up. Identify the 3 wires, run, start, and common, routed to the compressor. Most often these are routed through a sleeve cover. Cut the compressor cord, cut the cord. And then, like I said, you'll install them in line in the middle of. Okay, that should be pretty easy. And there is a little QR code there for you. Step 1 is going to be disconnect power to your air conditioning unit. You can do that by unplugging it like I just did with mine, or by turning off the breaker in your pedestal, or by turning off the breaker inside of your RV if you have one of those ones that's plugged into your circuit panel inside. This is my secondary AC on my 30 amp RV, which is why it's got its own dedicated plug. The next thing you're going to need to do is gather up a box with all of the supplies that you need to get up on the roof to make sure you don't have to get up and down and up and down and up and down over and over again. This might be foreshadowing because it's almost impossible to know everything you need. I have a multi-bit screwdriver, and I have a set of wire cutters and wire strippers all in one, and then I have the soft starter itself. And I think I might need a multimeter, but I can't see why I would need one. So I'm going to leave it down. Foreshadowing. My RV doesn't come with a ladder on it, so I have one of these collapsible telescopic ladders. And these things are awesome. I actually like this better than having the regular RV ladder. When you're putting a ladder up, make sure there's no overhead power lines. We're gonna do the surgery on the second AC. I've got the factory original air conditioner up there, and then I've got my solar panels up front that we were using earlier to charge up that battery. Taking a look around the inside, everything looks pretty good up here. It's been probably, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months since I've installed this. Pretty dusty though. Inside here, this is the box that we're looking for, and it gives us a bunch of information. So let's get that cover off. I don't know how well that's showing up on camera, but this would also be a fantastic time to clean this off. Like a blanket on it. Be very careful with those fins. They do make specialized cleaner bottles for this that have a perfect brush on it. I'll leave a link for that in the description down below for you. But for now, I'm just gonna pick all this stuff off since I don't have one of those handy. Wasn't planning on doing that part of the job. I could almost make a pair of socks out of that. That's nasty. It's a really good idea before you go messing with anything to take some really good detailed pictures of the way things are in here from a couple of different angles, paying attention to what connectors connect to where. That way, if you make any mistakes, you've got some reference to look back at as to what it looked like before you got started. The instruction manual says that we need to get the 3 wires that come from the compressor. And since my compressor only has 3 wires, that's gonna be super easy. This is the compressor. They show a picture of this whole setup inside of the owner's manual. This is some type of cap that can be removed. And they said the wires are normally inside of a sleeve. So there's a sleeve right there that comes up. And if I look at it, there are 3 wires that come out of that sleeve right there, red, yellow, and blue. And of course I can also tell because it says right on it that it is made by the Zawai Landa Compressor Company, right there. So what I'm gonna do is cut off all the zip ties that are there to give myself some ability to work with all of this wiring stuff. Like this one right here that's got this massive bundles of wire in it. There we go. Trying not to cut all the extra wires that are in there. And now I can start spreading these guys out, getting them out of my way, all the ones that aren't necessary for the job that I'm doing. And boy, that's so much easier. So I've got red, yellow, and blue to deal with, and I've got to figure out which one of these is which one of these. All right, so I'm gonna take those lever nuts that they gave me and I'm gonna do some real quick prep work here. These are the wires that are on the supply side of the soft starter here. And I'm just gonna poke them in. It's really straightforward. Put it in as far as it'll go and lock it down in place. And then you can give it a little pull to make sure that it's not coming back out. Let's do the next one, same thing. And you wanna make sure that some of the jacket is inside of the lever nut here. Some of you might call these Wagos. These ones are not official brand name Wagos, but I've used these plenty and they're plenty good enough. So now those guys are terminated and I'll do the same thing on the other side with the other set that they give me. And I'm actually gonna try and do the same. So this is the one side, and then I've got a completely separate set of lever nuts and a completely separate set of wires. And I'm gonna do the same wiring order just because I'm a little OCD like that. So lift up all 3 levers and then it is red, black, so all 3 of those are together. And these guys here are really slick. You can get these in singles and then they just attach to each other to make them look all pretty like, or you can get them in a complete set of 3x3, which is what this thing winds up being when it's all done. So now I've got my matching cable sets there going through my lever nuts. So red, black, blue, red, black, blue. Now I got to figure out how to cut these guys open and get at them that way. All right, so luckily on top of the controller box, there is this diagram, and it tells me that from the compressor, the R line, the run line, is BU for blue. The start line, the S line, is YE for yellow, and the compressor line is RD for red. So we've got all of those covered here in our handy dandy little diagram. So that gives me a lot more confidence. Let me show you why I was worried about that. So first things first, I got to get inside of this jacket here. Technically, like I said, everything down there is unplugged. You saw me unplug it. I need to cut these wires apart to get into there. And then I can peel this jacket back a little bit. And then what that reveals is that these colors are red, yellow, and blue, like I mentioned on the cap. And these colors over here are not red, yellow, and blue. And you can't just go and take red and connect to red and yellow and connect to black and blue and connect to blue, you know, process of elimination. So we'll take a look at our cheat sheet here. So first off, let's get the compressor side over here. So that is this connector here, which would then go to the compressor side. Run is blue. And we'll take that blue. And on these wires here, they are labeled R out. So R is run, blue is run. So this case here, luckily blue is blue. We'll do that same lever nut trick. Lift these guys up. Plug it in, connector up, good to go. And then we will take the red wire, which is your compressor wire, and we'll get that configured. So red from the compressor goes to, it's labeled on here black. Black is C out. So we put that into, in my case, it's the middle. And these things do come apart, which might make it easier for you to do. Plug that in, make sure it's good, and that leaves us with yellow. And yellow is labeled as start, and over here red is labeled as S out. So we connect the start to the start. And then tidy those all up by attaching them back together. There we go, one complete set. This is from the compressor side to the compressor side of the soft starter. Now to do the other side. And we'll make these guys nice and purty. And so this here is from the supply side, which is this box here is your supply, and it interrupts the supply line cable, runs into your soft start box, comes out the other side of your soft start box, and then runs into your compressor. And if we connect those up like so, I can even attach them to make it easier for me to show you. You can see I've got blue, black, red, blue, black, red. And on the bottom here, I've got blue, red, yellow, blue, red, yellow. Excellent. I'm gonna separate those guys back out because they don't belong attached. I guess it kind of doesn't matter if they're attached. Might even be better. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, zip ties are engaged. Everything is nice and clean on the inside of the box. This lid, you just have to kind of jimmy it and sway it a bit to get it to come out. But it'll come out once you remove those two screws. That's all that was in the way there. And then I will zip tie this part up all nice and neat, and I'll show you the install of it when we get done again, because I got to get some cleaning supplies to clean this up. This is covered in dust and grime. And I got to relocate this sticker so that I can attach this down here. So that way whoever is the next person that comes up here has the ability to troubleshoot this thing as well. Let's get downstairs and plug this thing back into the inverter. All right, moment of truth. Turn that guy on. I heard the AC click on back there. Okay, now we want to turn the air conditioner on, and I had it set for heat, so that's going to be fun. I want to change that to cool, and I want to turn the temperature way down. And so far I can hear it beeping, but I can't hear the fan kick in. We got 49 amps, 4.9 amps. There we go, 299.3, and again, that is times 10, so that's 29 amps. And the inverter didn't complain at all. So I would say that's a roaring success. Let's go check, see if the air is cold. Yep, she's putting out cold air. She's running like a champ. Beautiful. Let's do that again. And it'll take a couple of seconds for the compressor to kick on after the fan runs. We're still not in compressor mode. We're only pulling 76 watts out of the battery. Wow, we're getting good solar too. 11.9 solar in, 11.9 amps in, which is why that number is still where it is. Waiting for the compressor to kick in. We're only pulling 64 watts out of the inverter. There we go. We just kicked in. It says 271. It says 271 amps on the clamp meter. Again, this is times 10, so that's 27 amps maximum. The inverter never complained, and we're pulling out plenty of power from the battery. We've got 1 hour and 6 minutes remaining. And remember, some of that is being helped by the 11 amps coming in from the solar panels. So we've got 11 amps coming into the battery from the solar panels, and then we have, where is it? Does it tell me? 94 amps going out. So 94 minus 11, that's putting out almost 100 amps. 104 amps. And let's see what the power looks like now. DC, AC, there we go. So 13.6 amps. She's trying really hard to keep this room cool. So I'm going to set this to a more reasonable temperature. I don't need it 63 in here. 70. 70 in Arizona in the winter with no humidity is actually pretty chilly, but I'm also not very well insulated myself. And she should calm down. We're pulling 15 amps out now, and the inverter is handling the voltage sag really well. It is actually helping. It's seeing 12.4 and the battery is given 12.7. So we're doing really good. Well, the install wasn't all that difficult, honestly. Cut 3 wires, insert device, reattach 3 wires. Pretty straightforward. They make a bunch of different soft starters for a bunch of different air conditioners, and this soft starter may work with your air conditioner, or your air conditioner may need a better one. So always check the specs with everything, double check the owner's manual, check all the things in order to make sure you've got the right soft starter for the job. What I noticed was a 13 to 20%, pretty significant, reduction in the start amperage drawn while doing my tests. So I think overall it's pretty cool. If you are on shore power and you're not going anywhere and you're not subject to the wilds of RV life like we are with constantly changing pedestals and campgrounds and electrical supplies, I really wouldn't worry about doing this. I think in my case it was more an exercise in showing you how to do it than an actual benefit, because I have a dedicated 15 amp circuit that does nothing else besides run my air conditioner. If you've got one of those setups where you're running an air conditioner and a bunch of other stuff, it might actually help you out. I'll leave that up for you to decide. And if you do, there are links in the description down below to all the different tools, and even a link to the video on the inverter and the battery and the clamp on amp meter will be down there for you. There's a video right over here I think you might enjoy next. I'll see you over there.